The thoroughly amateur nature of this video, and indeed of this channel, is surely evident in those first 10 or 12 seconds. If they are not, then either I'm doing things a whole ton better than I think I am, or y'all need to borrow my glasses. I have a fairly, I don't know if large is quite the word, but I have a subject that is liable to take some time, so I'm going to go right into what I'm going to drink, because this is a Sippin' and Talkin' video. I love this screw top. This whiskey is better than a ton of stuff that has a cork and a fancy seal, and it has a screw top. And the same is true for Evan Williams Bottled in Bond, which I'm not drinking tonight. I will, of course, show you what I am drinking if you haven't figured it out already. And if you're brand new, these little pieces that you've seen might not be enough. Somebody who's been drinking whiskey for a while, I'm surely already knows. It's Old Forester 100. And it doesn't have that name here, but it's 100 proof, and so it's Old Forester 100. I got this on the 27th of December at Q Package Liquor, and I won't be going back because the reason I used to go there is now gone. Cost me $22.99, 23 bucks. Find another high-quality bourbon for 23 bucks. There are some out there, certainly. I'm not denying that. But there is stuff that costs $50, $60, $70, $100 that, in my judgment, is not this good. And this is worth at least 5 bucks more, maybe 10 bucks more than what I paid for it. Howsomever, I'm going to move this off the platform because I'm going to need the platform. Tonight, I say tonight, it is 22:28 on the 7th of March 2026. That's 10:28 p.m. for civilians. If you don't know by now, I think in military time. I think in terms of military dates. To me, this is 7MAR26. The military uses 3-month abbreviations. The first 3 letters of the month, January is Jan, September is Sep, etc. So tonight, I'm not going to be talking about that whiskey or this, that, or the other thing. I'm going to be talking about something else besides this, that, or the other thing. I've been on a wheat kick lately, and I've been having, now I don't believe in luck. I need to preface what I'm saying with this statement, just so you understand me correctly. I'm a Christian, as I've mentioned in various videos. I do not believe in luck. Things do not happen by random chance. God is in control. He's even in control of how many times I swirl my whiskey. I'm not counting. God is in control of the subatomic particles that make up the atoms of my body. And I'm not going to even attempt to go into a discussion of how absolute sovereign providential control squares with genuinely free choice. I'll just say I believe both. I also believe this smells good. With that in mind, I use luck and lucky because I don't have any better terms at my disposal, if there are better ones, I wished I knew them, to indicate that from my human perspective, things just happen to go this way or that. And I've been lucky lately with wheat. I wasn't always, but I'm not going to go into the history. I'm already over 5 minutes and I still have to get into the subject. And so I'm talking about whiskeys that have wheat in them, not 4-grain bourbons, although they would qualify. I don't have any 4-grain bourbons on hand as it happens just now. I'm talking about whiskeys in which wheat is, if not the dominant grain, certainly an important grain. And that really falls into two categories, wheated bourbon and wheat whiskey. I'll define each as I come to it. What do I want to grab first? A wheated bourbon. This is Green River wheated bourbon. Now, let me just keep the label crooked. I'm crooked. I don't suffer from insanity. I enjoy it. But yeah, I saw the label was cockeyed and I couldn't get it straight. But this is a wheated bourbon. Now, what is a wheated bourbon? To answer that, I have to talk about a traditional bourbon, what I call a rye bourbon. I don't know if anybody else uses that term, but to me it seems a good equivalent to wheated bourbon. Bourbon, by law, must contain at least 51% corn in the mash bill. Half plus 1% must be the corn, the majority grain. That's what a majority is. Half plus 1% or more. And usually it's more, 70-75% is usually corn. Then come what they call the flavor grain, which is usually rye. And a high rye mash bill is, I think K.C. Allen of Beautiful Bourbon has just as good a criterion as anybody. He regards it as high rye if it's 18% or higher. As a general rule of thumb, I usually think 20%, but that's just to avoid having to try to do the math of 18%. And then there's whatever small percentage of barley, not so much for the flavor as for the enzymes it provides. With a wheated bourbon, you have the corn, you have the barley, but the flavor grain is not rye, it's wheat. And that's what this is. It's a wheated bourbon. It is 90 proof. And I generally am not able to detect the difference between wheat bourbon and rye bourbon. Even if it's a high wheat and a high rye bourbon, they just taste so much alike to me. Other people can tell, but I can't. But I have this. As you can see, I've been drinking on it some. When did I get this? Where did I write that? Okay, back in October of 2025. And if y'all are new to the channel, at the minute I start recording, the allergies flare up. So I'll set that over there. And if you hear ding, crack, boing, smash, well, we hope not smash. That's the bottles hitting on other bottles. Next, I want to bring forth 2 bottles. Blah. Lone Elm Texas Wheat Whiskey. Now, what's a wheat whiskey? It is a whiskey where the dominant grain, the majority grain, is wheat, at least 51% wheat. Old Forester, by the way, is a rye bourbon. That's why it's not in this lineup. I tell you what, though, it's right good. Okay, this is the Lone Elm small batch, and Lone Elm uses a 90-10 mash bill. 90% wheat, 10% barley. It has the flavor of the wheat and the enzymes from the barley, which helps the yeast ferment the mash. This is 90 proof. Lone Elm comes from the 5 Points Distillery in Forney, Texas. And this one, I did a video, by the way. I recorded it last night. When I'll upload it, I don't know. It might be before this. It might be after this. But I did a video on why I write on the bottles. I got this back in January at Kelly for $49.55, $50. Now, because this is a craft distillery, everybody says that like it's a mark of bad, you know, like it's craft. Ew, I shall look down my nose at it. Jack Daniel's began as what we would today call a craft distillery. It was Jasper Newton Daniel, aka Jack, and Nathan Uncle Nearest Green, and a copper pot. That's how Jack Daniel's started. That's how Jim Beam started. Name a legacy distillery, that's how it started, as a craft distillery. And I get so irritated at people who say, oh, that's a craft distillery, as though that automatically makes the whiskey crap. Well, it doesn't. I've had crap from big distilleries, from legacy distilleries. But this is what they would call a craft distillery, and because their scale of operation is smaller, it costs more per bottle to make the stuff, and therefore they have to sell it for more per bottle. But $50 is a fair price for this, I firmly believe. Well, I'm going to move that back over here. I just don't have a big enough setup or a professional enough setup to have a whole lineup of bottles. They'd be like this and you wouldn't see me. And anybody who's out there thinking that would be a good thing, y'all can just go sit on the sofa now. And of course, I don't know if you're going to sit on... If anybody just got up and went to sit on the sofa, I'd like to know what y'all are thinking, or if you're thinking, because I ain't y'all boss. I'm a nutcase is what I am. Oh, you knew that already? Well, then life goes on. This is Lone Elm again. This is the single barrel. It is 122.2 proof. And with single barrels, you're generally going to get barrel proof, and so it's not going to be exactly on a particular proof. But this is the same 90-10 mash bill, same distillery, obviously. That's good. This is great. And this bottle was $69.55, $70. And I normally don't spend that much on a bottle, but I don't regret it. This is good stuff. I'm not going to show you until I show you. So, there. Y'all know by now, if you've been watching this channel for 3 seconds, that I am extremely silly and strange and weird and all that stuff. I don't try to be, but I am. And it seems to come out the minute I sit down and look at the camera. This is Bernheim Original Kentucky Straight Wheat Whiskey. The Green River Wheated Bourbon is from Kentucky. The Lone Elm Wheat Whiskey is from Texas. But this is from Kentucky, and this is the barrel proof. Barrel proof. It is 122.6 proof. So it's 4 points higher than that Lone Elm. And any given one of these, any given Lone Elm single barrel, is going to be higher or lower. Depends on what the barrel was that it come out of. Now, Bernheim comes from the Heaven Hill distillery, and it's a barely legal wheat whiskey. It's exactly 51% wheat. Even 0.1% lower, and it would not legally be wheat whiskey. And the regular 90 proof Bernheim, I've had one glass of this, and you know it's opening up now that I have it open. What the next glass will be like, I don't know. Comes the third glass, I'll do a review. But that first glass, this stuff is high class. It is a ton better than the 90 proof. And 90 proof is really the base or the lowest proof level I really want to go to. If I'm going to drink a foreign whiskey, then yeah, I'll drop lower. Abasolo, my Mexican corn whiskey, is 86. Lafroig 10, which is probably the only scotch I'll be buying for the foreseeable future, and not very often, because I just like more robust flavor than you get from Scottish whiskey, from just about anything foreign I've tried for that matter. It is, I believe, 86 proof, but I want my whiskey otherwise to be 90 or better. Well, the 90 proof Bernheim, it's not bad, but it's nothing to write home about. I'll write home about this puppy. I got this on the 3rd of March. This is the 7th, so I've only had it a few days at Kelly Liquors. This is definitely beyond what I usually buy. It's $74.99, and I almost did not buy it for that reason. I had the money, though. I'd wanted to try it for about a year and figured I'd better get it while it was available. And this is batch B924. The 924 is the month and the year. So 9 September, 24 is 2024. And the B, this is the second letter of the alphabet. So it's the second batch of barrel-proof Bernheim, which came out in September of 2024. Heaven Hill has a really simple batch system that, as far as I know, they employ across all their special releases. But this is good. They say it's original wheat whiskey. They claim that it was the first new kind of whiskey since Prohibition, when it came out in, I believe it was 95. I don't know, but it's good. That goes over there. The wine bottle I'm not showing you just yet, because I need to take a drink of Forester. This is Old Emmer. What do they call it? Old Emmer cask strength, which is fancy talk for barrel proof. This is a wheated bourbon like the Green River. Excuse me. Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. This label is hard to read. The gold is not bright enough to really show up well against that blue. This is 60.15% alcohol by volume, which is 120.3 proof. I'm sorry, I suddenly got a tickle in my throat. Now this, excuse me, sorry about that. My dad used to do that with the tobacco from his cigarettes. I don't know what that was. If I had some civilization, I'd have paused it, but it was right there and I didn't think, and I'm sorry. I'm semi-civilized. This is a wheated bourbon, not a wheat whiskey, but to me, I've had one glass of this also. I got it on the 18th of February, but I've just had the one glass. I might need to do a video on my rotation so that you'll understand when I say that this was, I got this early in the rotation, and so it's taking a while to get back to it. But this, to me, the one glass I've had, tasted more like a wheat whiskey than a wheated bourbon. It's named after an old variety of wheat. Whether they're using Emmer wheat, I don't know. I don't think it gives the mash bill. No, it just says it's a proprietary mash bill, and I can't remember who distills it either. It's distilled in Kentucky, bottled by Kentucky Whiskey Bottling. Well, that's just a company that bottles whiskey. They don't necessarily distill it. Somebody mentioned who makes this. It obviously cannot be MGP. They're in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Therefore, this being Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, it has to come from a Kentucky distillery. But I can't remember who somebody said it was. And that's really not neither here nor there. Don't make no never mind. But those are the whiskeys I have on hand currently, which are either a wheated bourbon or a wheat whiskey. I've had others at different times. I've mentioned the 90 proof Bernheim. There was Oregon Spirit Wheated Rye, which is a rye whiskey, which instead of corn as a flavor grain uses wheat. I've had Redemption Wheated Bourbon. And that Oregon Spirit and the Redemption were good at first, but it didn't take much to be enough. And just a little more than that was a plenty. But every single one of these I like. Some better than others. I think some are better quality than others. Some have a higher proof, which I like. I like proof and age, although they're not necessary to be good. This Old Forester is just 100 proof, and I don't know the age, but I know it's not going to be a 20-year bourbon. Knob Creek 9 is only 9 years old, which granted is a respectable age for a bourbon, but it's high-class stuff. I like the 12. Who needs the 18? Who needs a 21? Anyway, I'm at almost 24 minutes. I'm starting to wander off from my whole point here, so I'm going to raise my glass, and I'm going to do a different toast. As Casey Allen of Beautiful Bourbon says, you could be doing anything else, and you're watching this video, and you've gotten to this point. I extremely appreciate it. I really do. I probably don't say it often enough, but I don't want it to become just a rote recitation. I appreciate it. Here's to y'all.